The room felt too quiet, not the silence of peace, but the kind that sinks in just before thunder. I sat down slowly, bones stiff from age and memories, and adjusted the microphone. He didn't even look at Mr. Crane, as I used to call him, leaned back in that leather chair like he still owned the air in this room. His suit cost more than I made in my last month with him, and his eyes cold, unbothered. He leaned toward me, barely moving his lips. "I don't waste my time on nobody's." My throat tightened. I heard it. So did his lawyer. So did Judge Waller. I didn't flinch, not outwardly. I folded my hands on the table, though they trembled under the wood. "I worked for you for 18 years. I said, voice steady. "You knew my name then?" He chuckled. Not kindly. "Sure, when I needed coffee." I took a breath. That old ache pressed against my chest again. The one I used to ignore every time he walked past me without so much as a nod. Judge Waller raised her eyebrows, but said nothing. "I wasn't just your assistant." My eyes held his. "I managed your vendors. I trained your son. I covered for you when the numbers didn't add up." He laughed louder, this time a bitter sound. "So that's what this is. You want revenge?" "No," I replied, quieter now. "I want acknowledgement." He turned toward the judge with exaggerated offense. "She's just angry she got caught stealing. This is retaliation." That word stealing hit like a slap. But I didn't break, not after everything I heard. A chair shift. Mr. Douglas, his lawyer, cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable. "That's not true," he said. Soft but firm. Crane's head snapped toward him. "Excuse me." Douglas stood up slowly. His hands shook slightly as he pressed a folder to his chest. "She has proof," he said. "I've seen the ledgers, all of them." The room went still. My breath caught. I hadn't expected that, not from him. Crane narrowed his eyes. "What did you say?" Douglas didn't blink. I said. He repeated, louder now. "She has proof. The offshore accounts, the transfers through the dummy companies, it's all there." He glanced toward the judge. "I can't represent a man who lies under oath." Crane's face turned red, then pale. "You little don't." Douglas held up a hand. "I stayed quiet because I believed you had a side worth defending. I was wrong." I sat frozen, not because I was shocked by Crane's lies. I had known those for years, but because someone else finally said it out loud. Someone from his side. The judge tapped her pen twice, sharply. "Let's maintain order," she said firmly. Crane turned back to me, nostrils flaring. "You think this makes you a hero? You're just a bitter old woman who got passed over." That stung. He said it like my age. My calm, my endurance were weaknesses. Like survival made me lesser. I leaned forward. "No, I'm a woman who trusted you, who gave you nearly 2 decades of her life, who watched you humiliate me in front of your board, ignore my work, and call me everything but my name." His lips curled. "You always played the victim well." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Victim, no. I was the shield between your corruption and the truth, but shields break, and when they do, the truth gets through." The judge looked from me to Douglas, then to Crane. "Mr. Douglas," she said, "do you intend to step down from this case?" He nodded slowly. "Effective immediately." "Your Honor." Crane slammed his hand on the table. "This is a circus. She's manipulating you. You manipulated the truth," I said calmly, "and you did it thinking I'd stay silent like always." For a long moment, no one spoke. The courtroom wasn't buzzing anymore. It was listening. I thought of all those years I stood behind his desk, watching him take credit for my work, watching him treat me like background noise. I had felt invisible until now. Douglas gathered his papers and walked away. He didn't look back. Crane sat rigid, breathing hard. His mask was slipping, and for once, everyone saw the man underneath. I sat a little taller in my chair, not because I had won, but because I had spoken. "You're quitting? Over her?" Crane's voice thundered across the courtroom like a man used to being obeyed. But Douglas didn't even flinch. "I'm not quitting," Douglas said calmly, standing straighter. "I'm stepping away because truth matters more than a paycheck." A wave of murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Benches behind me. The judge banged the gavel. "Order," Judge Waller said, eyes scanning the room. "Mr. Crane, control yourself." Crane turned, and for a second I saw it, fear masked as fury. Then he looked right at me. "You think this circus makes you important?" He sneered. "You're still nothing. You'll always be nothing." I didn't blink. I didn't shrink. Instead, I leaned forward, met his gaze, and said softly, "You said that exact line when your wife asked why your employees kept quitting. The Silence that followed was thick, suffocating gasps broke out like wind rustling dry leaves. The judge looked at me. "Do you have documentation?" I nodded, "Yes." "Your Honor." My hands didn't shake as I opened the folder. I placed it carefully on the bench. Printed memos, email records, payroll slips showing discrepancies, bank transfers to unnamed accounts, every page a piece of my. Silence turned to Stone. Douglas stepped forward. "If needed, I'll testify everything she's saying is true." Crane's jaw twitched, his hands clenched the edges of the table. "You don't understand," he stammered. I was under pressure. The business was failing. She knew that. I breathed slowly, controlling the sting behind my ribs. "Yes," I said. "I knew. That's why I stayed. That's why I worked nights while others got bonuses. That's why I kept your secrets when your suppliers threatened to walk. I covered for you." Crane looked away. "I did it for loyalty," I continued, my voice low but steady. "Even when you paid me less than the others, even when you joked that I was cheap labor behind closed doors, I stayed." He swallowed hard. "Until the day you accused me of stealing." He tried to cut in. "That wasn't personal." "It was always personal," I said. "Every name you called me when clients weren't around. Every time you introduced me as just the assistant, even when I closed the deal, every time I swallowed your hate and told myself it was temporary." My chest felt like it might cave in. "But I didn't stop, and then you told the board it was me who skimmed the accounts." Knowing I had no way to defend myself, Crane looked at Judge Waller, desperate now. "She's twisting things. I was trying to protect the company." "The company?" I said. "Or your image." He didn't answer. Judge Waller adjusted his glasses. "I see enough here to move this case to criminal court." Crane slumped back, his mouth half open. His lawyer whispered something, but he didn't respond. Douglas stepped away from the bench. He picked up his briefcase, paused, and gave me the smallest nod. Not pity, not apology, respect. Then he walked out the courtroom, remained still. Crane finally looked up at me, eyes bloodshot. "You think you've won?" I walked past him slowly. Stopped, turned my head just enough to let him hear. "No," I whispered. "I've been free since the day I stopped being silent."